I want to see, today we're going over FLS questions. So who in here, everybody knows what an FLS is. Who does not know what an FLS is? FLS is this worksheet. It's a financial lifestyle strategy that you mainly use when you're going in the field. And there's 2 FLSs. So today is going to be a little bit more technical. It's going to be a lot about questions. And I want you guys to ask a lot of questions. I want it to be more interactive. That's how most of my trainings are. I don't like just talking the whole time. But I'll tell you this, my biggest fear when I used to be in the field. So who in here is, let's get a gauge, who in here is actively doing at least 3-4 field trainings a week where you have a trainee and you're being matched up, or you're booking them on your own and you're running 3 to 4 actively per week right now, field trainings. So we got 3 right here, okay. How about a couple, maybe like 1, or you're in that group, maybe 1 a week. And then who is like really not running as a trainer? So GOU would be as a trainer, because my intention for today is that everybody leaves here today more comfortable going and being a trainer, leaving here, and this is a big part of that too. Shout out to, is this all TNG mainly in here? Almost everybody? Let's go. We're starting our CFT Academy, not this upcoming Thursday, but the following one. So for those, good job to Devin. He graduated the last CFT Academy. Give it up for Devin. Great job. But my biggest fear going in the field was I didn't fear actually talking to people. Well, I did in the beginning. After I did about 30, 40 appointments, then I was like, okay, I don't really fear saying the script itself, but transitioning to getting their information, that was my struggle. I can go in there, I could leave, and them saying, oh, this was great information, thank you so much, and maybe even get referrals, but like I always struggled to like get their information, and I felt like either hesitant, or if I asked them, like I was embarrassed if they say no, so sometimes I wouldn't even ask them. Has anybody ever done that, where you're kind of so afraid to even get rejected, you don't even ask if they're interested, you just go like, hey, any questions? And then they don't, and then, are you sure there's no questions? Any questions about your own situation? Nothing? No questions. Okay, gotcha. Well, if you have no questions,
see you later.
I guess I'm done, right? No questions? Okay, sounds good. All right, I'm leaving. I was like hoping for them to say something. When I learned to get into the transition, this actually helped me out a lot. So I would actually have this printed out, this version, and I would have one of them like laminated. Why? I would use it as a tool in the field. Because before you have experience in the field, people will know when you meet with them that you've done this for a while, and they'll trust that. Like you could know if I go to a car dealership, I could tell if that car salesman has been doing it for years. Just by the way they speak, they just make you feel comfortable. You guys know what I'm talking about? And then the person that's barely got their, started, and you're like, I don't feel comfortable with you. Like I don't even think you know what you're talking about. So when you have a lot of experience, you've done 100+ appointments, you'll give off that vibe. And you may not have to do things exactly the same as you did in the very beginning. In the beginning, most of us kind of give off the vibe that we're not like, haven't been doing this for years, So you have to leverage as many things as possible for them to feel comfortable with doing some business with you. And this is a great leverage. So how do I transition into this? When do you bring out the FLS? The FLS you bring out at the end of the KTP1 when you do the presentation. Now, most of our KTPs are helping out a trainee, right? So how do we go from them helping out to now I'm trying to get some business from them? Because there's a fine line, right? Like I've done it before where they're like, I thought you were just doing this to help out. Are you trying to sell me now? And I'm like, not at all. I'm not trying to sell you. But then sometimes I'm like, well, yes, of course, if you're interested. I was trying to that balance. So the balance is you kind of separate the two. When you do the presentation, hey, we're here to help out Asante with this training. Is there any questions that you have from the presentation? There's none? Okay. We'll go into referrals. So I always get referrals first. Why? Because that way I already got those knocked out of the way. And referrals also helps you build some more trust, because if they give you a couple numbers, they're giving you more trust. So it's easier to ask them about the FLS than if they didn't give you referrals, if that makes sense. So I'd always get 1 or 2 referrals. And then at the end I say, okay, well, I appreciate you helping Asante with training. My last question is, I know earlier when we did the presentation, you had mentioned blank. Are you interested in learning more about blank? So just kind of have that. That's your sort of transition sentence. Earlier in the presentation, you had mentioned blank. So fill in the blank. What could that be? Earlier in the presentation, you mentioned you have a life insurance with State Farm. Would you be interested in getting a second review of your policy and just seeing your options? So earlier you said in your presentation, blank. would you be interested in blank? I say this because if I teach you how to do the FLS, but you can't get into it, it doesn't help you. So getting into the FLS is probably a bigger part of it. Earlier in the presentation, you had mentioned blank. Would you be interested in blank? Now, here's a key when it comes to selling. What answer you're trying to get from them after you ask that question? What do you want them to say? Yes. So if you know that the goal is to get them to say yes, you want to ask them a question where it's easy for them to say yes to. Sometimes we ask questions, but it's not an easy one to say yes to. Here's a question that's not easy to say yes to. Would you like to buy a policy? Well, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. Like if I say yes right now, am I signing up right now? I want to think about it. That's not a question that's easy for them to say yes. So make it hard for them, in fact, to say yes. What's a question that you can't really say no to? So let's use this as an example. They have a State Farm policy. They mentioned that in the appointment. What sentence could you say where it would be hard for them to say no if you filled in those blanks, knowing they have a State Farm? So I gave you the first blank. Because I'll give you one, but I want to see if anybody wants to try it.
So the question is, what question?
So what could you fill that last blank in? Hey, earlier you mentioned you have a State Farm policy. Mm-hmm. Would you be interested in blank? What could you put in that blank where it'd be very hard for them to say no? It's a question that's easy for them to say yes to.
Would you mind if I look at the policy for you?
So that's a little hard to say. That's kind of easy to say no to. Because from a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, ooh, that's super easy to say yes. That one's like a 4 or 5, because that's like you're about to close me.
Would you mind if I can save you some money on your policy?
That's isn't that easier to say yes to?
Yeah.
It's a little easier. You were going to say one?
Would you be interested in running some quotes? You don't have to buy anything. We'll just be looking, comparing prices.
Okay, that's a little hard because that's a lot to it. So if I say yes, I'm committing. It has to be a question where I'm not committing to anything. Because if it requires a commitment, I'm going to say no because I'm not ready for that. You were just here for training.
Would you be open to a policy review to compare options?
Okay, there we go. That's a little. There's even a potential easier one. So all of those had to do with kind of me agreeing to switch my policy. What's even a step before I switch the policy? Well, that's kind of part of the review. That's like right in the middle. That's the borderline. So there's like, you want to switch it? Do you want to get a review? What's even before the review?
Look at it.
Can I give you a quick
illustration?
It's something with educational. Would you like to see options of what's out there and how and be educated on different, I'm not even talking about reviewing your policy. I'm just showing you options. It has nothing to do with what you currently have. Would you be open to seeing options of policies with the new type of insurance? Something like that, where it's really hard for them to say no because it's not even involving, there's no commitment. If they say yes to it, they're not committing to buying anything. They're just committing to seeing options. Because if I say, would you be open to a review of your policy? By the way, that might work. If they're like very open to the whole time and they're like really engaging, okay, you can ask that question. Would you be open to a second opinion? But if I say, are you open to a review of your policy? It's requiring a commitment for me to see their policy. To see their options, I don't have to see their policy. So they're not committing to anything. They're just committing to seeing something. So it's hard for them. So I'm just really good at asking questions where it's hard for them to say no to. And the easier you make them to say yes, it's going to help you in the field a lot. They're going to say yes more often. Most of the time we ask those questions that you asked, and they work in here, and they're great because they sound good. But if they're not like fully bought in, how many of our KTPs at the end of the KTP are like, man, they're hungry, they want this information, they're going to sign up for a policy, and they're like really interested. What percentage are they really interested?
1 out of 10.
It's a smaller number, right? It's not majority of them. Majority are like, I'm kind of open. I like it. It was good. I'm interested in seeing it, but I'm not ready to sign up. So there, take him on another date, Devin. There we go. He's teaching us some dating over here. So you got to get the commitment for are they open for even an opportunity for a date potential? So earlier you said that. Let's use another one because we have to use something they said also. Mm-hmm. If you just say, would you like one of these? That's really hard. That's easy for them to say no to. And I'm good. I'm fine. Has anybody ever done one of these for you? See, I'm not asking anything from them. I'm just saying, has anybody ever done one from them? No, they haven't. Okay. Would this be important for you? It would. That's a yes. See how I got a yes? It's almost like try to get a yes from me. It's one of those games. So earlier you said this. What if earlier they said they only have life insurance at their job? What could you say there? So earlier you had mentioned you had life insurance through your job.
Has anybody educated you on the importance of having life insurance outside of your job?
Okay, that's a good one. Or would you be interested in, has anybody ever educated you? But you kind of did a little bit. So remember you did the KTP.
Yeah.
So they could say, oh yeah, you kind of just. So that's not a bad one. What's another one?
Do you know what you have in your insurance at work?
Do I know? No, I don't. See, that didn't help you now. So now you're like, damn it. So, by the way, anytime you ask a question, always be prepared are you ready for whatever they ask you? So if you ask that question and I say, I don't know, are you prepared to follow up with that? And if you're not, I wouldn't even go that route. There's nothing wrong with that question. If they say no, would it be important for you to understand that? See, that's a good way to respond. But if you're not prepared for it, sometimes we just ask questions and the answer, we're like, damn it, I wasn't even prepared for that one. I was hoping you're going that way. Can we try this direction this time? Let me ask it one more time. Just go here, please, because I can't go here. So has anybody done this? And here's one thing I would, the one I did earlier. Earlier you had mentioned this. Earlier you had mentioned you had a policy through your job. Would you be open to looking at options outside of your job that are possibly the new insurance? Are you open for looking at your options? So I like that question because it has less to do with them signing up. Are you open to looking at options outside of your job? And then this right here. So I would bring this out in an appointment when I'm doing an appointment. So let's say, does anybody have the flip chart on them? I mean the napkin presentation on them by chance? Oh, boom! That was fast. See, he just turned around. It was already up in the air. Okay, I like it. So here, I'm going to do it live with Jay too, because there's one part where I bring it in the field as well. It would help out. So I explain term, and I explain permanent, I explain the different policies.
Yep.
Hey, any questions about the different types of insurance?
No.
Okay, so just so you know how we do with our clients, if you or anybody that you know ever comes to us wanting insurance, what we do is we first educate them, and then based on that information, we find out some of their goals and we put together a plan that's best suited them. We actually use something called a financial lifestyle strategy. It looks like this right here. And it's have you ever had like a financial plan put together?
No.
Okay, so now we're not financial planners by all means. We're not certified financial, but this actually just helps us go over notes, because if you're going to go and if you're going to, let's say, go on a road trip to New York, are you going to just head east and then hope you get there? No, you're going to plan. Now, back in the day before there was GPS, you'd have to go to this MapQuest thing and you'd have to like put in the address, get a map. You'd have to have a whole map. You'd have to plan it out. And there's a plan, right? Most people, this is a quote you've all heard before, most people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. They don't have a plan for themselves. So what we do is we actually go over and we take notes and we look at what they currently have, like a snapshot of what they have, so that we can get them the best policy that's for them. So I sell this as like a snapshot, like if you want to know where you're going, do you know where you're currently at? So I bring that out and I mention it because if the first time you bring it out is at the end of the presentation, they're going to see you pull out this form at the end that has all these things that's a little daunting.
Yeah.
So if you bust it out at the very end, like, hey, there's no questions. So this right here is, they're like, well, that's a lot. So if it's already out there, and Jason told me this, he goes, if it's already out there and they see it, they feel more comfortable with it. So if I could bring this out and just have it there and I just say, yeah, we're really big. And we actually look at all different areas. Most insurance agents, they're going to just try to sell you life insurance. Well, we look at creating a budget, managing debt, long-term planning, proper